everybody, my name is Faith the Pacifist 17 and welcome back to Fanfiction Reading, Soul of Compassion, My Hero's Undertale. Today we are going to read Chapter 2, and it will be the same thing as last time. I noticed that some of the people in the comment section were happy and liked the video, and were relieved that I was doing videos again. So I'll try to do more of these if I can. And whenever it may be, I might do the Sans X listener stuff requests again. But I'll have to go back to the comments to remember them because I don't have the notes that I used to have from all the requests. But we'll see in the future. But for now, let's get started on this one. Okay, here we go. Chapter 2. Bring up the truth can only lead to despair. Summary. Trouble and a terrifying experience turns around the corner with Nanako, and when a certain hero shows up. Nanako asks a question in hopes that she'll hear what she wants to hear. What she got was much worse. Nanako whined softly in pain as she held onto her arm and was limping on her left leg to her little apartment. Of course, this day had to be the one day out of the week that she had to get beaten and bullied when Izu wasn't by her side. Honestly, she should have seen it coming. Almost every day, she always gets beaten or leaves the school grounds with an injury. It was the 13th time it happened. Yet to her, it felt like it's at least the 38th time, considering those three are the ones that always keep bullying her when Kachan isn't in the mood or isn't around.
If you want a quirk that badly.
Nanako shook her head softly to get the voices that were reverberating within her brain out of her head.
I'll give you some advice.
She stopped cradling her arm and she grabbed the sides of her head and shook harder, letting out small grunts and whimpers while doing so. She decided to stay strong and keep her chin up.
If you want to make the world a better place for everyone.
No. Shut up before she can finish her sentence. She didn't want to hear it again.
Then just take a swan dive.
Stop! Why couldn't she get those words out of her head? Off the roof. Tears welled up and spilled down her freckled cheeks unbidden. Her hands shifted to cover her face, to hide the pathetic tears as she started crying, and bent down into an disgraceful ball, but still on her feet. Heroes didn't cry. Heroes smiled even when times were tough. But you're not a hero. She sniffled softly as she pushed that thought away with all her might and wiped the tears off from her eyes. It didn't matter if no one believed in her. As long as she believed that she could do it, as long as she worked hard for it, she could and would become a hero. Besides, heroes did cry sometimes. It was a rare expression that they would have, but it did happen, and she still looked up to them. She didn't think less of them. That doesn't mean that you believe that there are true heroes like All Might. She frowned softly at that thought, and didn't want to argue with it because she knew that one was true. Some courageous people that had shown up like Mount Lady, or some others that she didn't have the time to know their names at the moment, weren't even true heroes at all. All they ever cared about was being in the spotlight, and didn't care if they hurt any innocent lives. Back then again, She admired every pro hero, and All Might himself was her favorite one along with Kachan and Izu-chan. But due to certain circumstances, her love for heroes started to drop drastically every single day. But she always hoped that All Might was different from the rest of them. He had to be, right? She sniffled softly as she brushed the last of her tears away. Her left arm was feeling a little better, but still hurt to move it around if she did it too fast. You'll never be a hero. Then she felt a faint yet gentle hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Okunin, who was looking at her with soft eyes. Hey, don't let what those girls, or anyone for that matter, get into your head. As long as you have me around, it'll be okay, the she-shadow said, and this made the girl smile softly at her and nodded silently. Soon, the duo started walking. Olga was floating off the ground more than walking, her way back to her little home, if she can call it a home at all. It was more like a residence that she has to stay in. She was in such turmoil with her inner demons, she didn't detect the upcoming danger lurking from behind her. When she finally did, she paused and turned to see what it was. It was a villain, a sludge villain, and he was here for something, or rather, someone.
You'll be the perfect skin suit for me to hide, kid.
Nanako. Run! Okunin yelled worriedly and started to float away to safety, but it couldn't go that far without Nanako. Nanako gasped in fear and tried to run away, letting out a cry of panic before the sludge filling splashed onto her and knocked her down, along with making all of her stuff fly away far beyond her reach. The impact made Okunin disappear, since she's trapped, and she was attacked by broad daylight in the middle of a street. There was nothing that the shadow can do for her friend. The next thing the 11-year-old knew, slime had entered her mouth and nose. That way she couldn't breathe at all. All that slime-like fluid was muffling her screams, and her eyes were filled with fear. She squirmed and flailed around in a panicky motion. She didn't care if her body was still achy from the beating earlier that day. She had to escape.
Don't worry. I'm just taking over your body. It'll be easier for both of us if you don't fight back. It'll only hurt for a little bit, but you'll feel better soon enough.
The small teen was hyperventilating and tried to get a grip on the slime so she could pull it away from her mouth because
I can't breathe.
This act made the villain let out an evil laugh.
Grab all you want. It won't do anything. My body is made of fluid. I just want to thank you for this. You're a real hero to me, kid.
She kept on clawing and trying to get the slime out of her body, but nothing was working. That's when she realized that her movements were slowing down.
My body getting weak. I think I'm dying.
That thought made her heart beat faster and her soul filled with fear. She couldn't die yet.
No, I can't die yet. Not yet. Kachan, Izu-chan, Oka-chan, someone, anyone, please.
soon, there was a faint, echoey sound. She couldn't pick up on what it was because her senses were leaving her quickly. The next thing she knew, she was no longer bound to anything and she was slowly falling to the ground. She slowly opened her eyes to see a figure. Her vision was so unfocused to see who it was, but she noticed there was a figure and knew those muscles and that kind of strength anywhere.
Is that all my...
That was the last thought that was stuck in her brain before she passed out. Soon after,
Hey! 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 Hey!
that was what she heard when she opened her eyes, and she felt someone aggressively patting her cheek. She looked up and her eyes widened in shock at who she saw.
Thought we lost you there!
She was gaping at the person who's in front of her as if she was a fish out of water, and shrieks as she sat up and backed away in shock, because the one who woke her up was the #1 hero himself, All Might.
Oh, well, looks like you're moving around all right. Sorry about back there. I didn't mean to make you caught up in my justice thing. Usually I pay more attention to keeping bystanders safe. However, it turns out the city sewer system is pretty difficult to navigate. Ha ha ha!
He said as he looked at the awestruck child, before sighing softly and turned the other way.
Unfortunately, the villain got away before I could apprehend him. Now that I see you're safe, I must be on my way. I need to catch him before any more innocent civilians get hurt.
Nanako snapped out of her amazement and shock as soon as she heard that. She opened her mouth to speak, but the only thing she could say was this.
Wait! I have something to ask you!
She immediately got up from the ground, being very mindful of her left leg, and her heart beat, and he felt her heart beating against her chest with anxiety. The #1 pro hero paused and turned to her.
All right, but please be quick.
Nanako knew that she couldn't screw this up. It's now or never to ask.
Sometimes I do feel like I'm a failure. Like there's no hope for me. But even so, I'm not gonna give up. Ever. I know I can have faith in myself. I have to hear it from him. Face to face. I'm a quirkless girl, and my dream is to be a hero. But everyone keeps telling me that it's impossible due to quirk discrimination. So I have to know, from the #1 hero himself.
She started and closed her eyes tightly so she couldn't see his reaction.
Is it possible to become a hero even if I don't have a quirk? Could I ever hope to be someone like you?
She finally asked. Her heart was trying to calm down. She was so nervous and full of anticipation to hear his reply.
Without a quirk? Pro heroes are always having to risk their lives. Some villains just can't be beaten without powers. So no, I honestly don't think you can be a hero without a quirk or any kind of power.
Nanako opened her eyes, and they widened in shock. She couldn't believe what she just heard. Her hero. Was he even her hero to begin with? Did she even have one at all? Of course she does. But they're not around anymore for her to call out for help if she needed to. Izu-chan's idol, the #1 hero, just said that she can't be a hero without a quirk.
Oh, I see. All Might, I have a friend who was quirkless like me. His name is Izuku Midoriya. He's your biggest friend ever. So, I can only ask you, if you ever bump into him, and he asks the same question I did, will you break the news to him gently? I don't want him to be heartbroken. He deserves a chance. Please.
She requested, and can only imagine how Izu would feel if All Might said that to him the way he did to her. He would be devastated.
Alright. If I bump into your friend, I'll break the news to him as gently as I can. Now, I must be off. Let's Ultra!
He bid the child farewell as he jumped high into the air and far away from Nanako. Wow. So much for a positive role model for all generations out there. Okanen finally spoke as she watched that man leave. Then Oka heard a loud thud and turned to see her friend on her knees, and her hair was hiding her face. This made the shadow being concerned and kneeled next to her. Nanako? Are you okay? She asked as she looked at her with worry and placed her hands on the 11-year-old's shoulders. Nanako let out a whimper and started sobbing. Her breath became shaky and tears started to fall to the ground. She finally looked at her shadow friend.
Oka-chan, take me to them.
She tried to say in a full sentence, but she was sobbing. It was kinda hard for her to hold it all in. The shadow bit her lip and nodded in silence as dark mist surrounded them, and shadow-like limbs grabbed Nanako's things beforehand. Okanen is a strange being that was given life when Nanako was only a small child. And since she was a living being, she has powers of her own. For instance, unlike other shadows, she can change her appearance to separate herself from any other shadow. The half of her hair is a dark red, and her eyes are red, and her skin is a dark shade of gray, so when she steps out from another shade or shadow, Nanako can easily spot her. She can replicate another being just by creating them out of their own shadows, and that shadow clone can act and take the same as the original can. She can even create one out of a dying person. But alas, if the human is already dead, she can make one, but the shadow clone will too cease to be. And if the clone dies from anything else besides nature, the body will slowly decompose and become black ink or goop. Then it will blend in with a nearby shadow, leaving behind a stained cover surface in which it will never be removed. Another thing that she can do is that since she's made out of darkness, she can tear the fabric of the darkness or anywhere and create a dimension pocket where she can store anything and anyone within it, and whatever is stored in there would not change or be altered. She can also open dark portals that can take her and anyone she brings anywhere she can think of, as long as it's a place she's familiar with, like a fast shortcut. Not to mention she can create limbs to grab and touch stuff that's far out of her reach, and there's no shade or shadows anywhere within the area. The next thing the duo knew, they were out of the area they were once in, and in the middle of a forest where there was an opening up ahead.
Do you need help walking?
She asked softly to the broken-hearted girl. Nanako sniffled softly and opened her head, nodded her head softly. She slowly started to stand up and was about to take a first step before she started coughing. She covered her mouth to muffle the sound and not to attract any unwanted attention.
Nanako, you okay?
Nanako nodded softly and leaned against the shadow, and both of them started walking towards the opening. Soon, they finally made it to their destination. It was a big cliff, big enough to have a picnic. Up ahead lay 2 gravestones, made out of stones and sticks. Each stick was tied together by ribbons of different colors on each of the stones were engraved on them and had names labeled on each one. The grave on the left with the blue ribbon said, ribbon red, Rin Nakamura, born May 15th, 2361, died October 24th, 2389, age 28, pro hero, Orion Fees, loving wife, loving mother, flying with the angels, R.I.P. On the right, with orange ribbon red, Seiji Nakamura, born February 19th, 2362, died October 24th, 2389, age 27, ex-pro hero, Wildfire, loving husband, caring father. His fire shined like the sun, R.I.P. Okunin looked at the graves and she gave out a small frown. Even though it can slightly be seen. She gently floated herself to the ground, sat next to a human as Nanako sat in front of the makeshift graves. She soon opened her dark dimension and reached out to grab a bag that contained 2 bento boxes that Nanako made that morning, while the shadow limbs gently gave Nanako a beautiful goat bouquet that she put together at the flower shop earlier that day before they went to watch the villain attack. The bouquet consisted of different kinds of flowers. There were 5 different kinds of hyacinth, I think that's what it is. 3 of them were pink and 2 were purple. 4 royal blue lilies, 6 camellias, 3 pinkish greenish hydrangeas, 4 green carnations, and a couple of red roses. But there was a single flower sitting directly in the middle of it that made it all different from any other bouquet. It was a dark purple chrysanthemum. Okunin bought 2 white chrysanthemums with her as well, to pay respect to her friends, who she always sees as a sister to her long-lost parents, whom she never got to see when she was alive for her first moments on this earth. Nanako had cleaned up their graves beforehand, as she looked at her parents' graves while she smiled sadly.
Hi, Mommy. Hi, Daddy. I'm sorry I haven't been visiting you a lot. But I made you 2 your favorite meals, even though they're in bento boxes. But I made them with all my love. I also got you flowers, Mom. Your favorite ones. Okunin helped pick them out for you. she said, as she gently placed the bouquet next to her mother's grave. Olga looked at the graves and was shy to speak, but exhaled softly. Her breath was almost silent and gentle as she placed the 2 chrysanthemums on each grave. Hello. Again. It's nice to visit you once more. Don't worry. I've been taking very good care of Oken-chan, while you two are very, very far away. She greeted softly and leaned next to Nanako and nuzzled her. Her hair was swaying side to side like it was underneath the water. She gently wrapped her arm carefully around Nanako's left arm, being mindful to not hurt her in any way possible. Nanako gently grabbed Oka's hand and sighed softly. Mama, I don't know if I can keep the promise I made you so long ago. I'm trying to do my best to keep it, but every day it gets harder and harder to do so, she said, knowing that she'll never get a reply back, and tears were slowly rolling down her face. I don't know what to do anymore. All I know is that I miss you and Daddy so much. You two were the only ones that believed in me when no one else did. You were my encouragement, my heroes. She sniffled and shut her eyes tightly. Both of you promised that you would always be there for me. But that night, both of you left. And you never came back to me. She started crying. Tears were endlessly rolling down her face. She then turned to Oka, pulling her in for a hug as she cried into her shadowy chest. Okanen looked at her sister sadly and pulled her in for a hug, as she gently rubbed her back with one hand while the other was stroking the back of her hair. They were like this for a while until they decided it was time to go back home. Come on, we should head back to the city. Maybe get some things for the place, Oka said as she floated back up and looked down at her human with sad eyes. Nanako was all spent up crying and sniffled softly. Okay, let's go, she said as she slowly stood up and bowed to the graves respectfully, and Oka did the same thing. Bye, Mommy. Bye, Daddy. The next time I visit, it'll be soon. I promise, she said softly, and Oka looked at the graves. Don't worry. I'll make sure she's happy with whatever she chooses. And with that, they started to leave, and either of them saw the two ghosts watching the girls leave with sad smiles on their faces. And as quick as they appeared, they disappeared along with the wind before anyone noticed them. To be continued. Okay, well, oh my gosh, wow.
well, as once again, I hope you enjoy this. Please like and subscribe and watch some other of my videos if you feel nostalgic, if you want to feel some nostalgia. And the Christmas season, Christmas is almost here. Just 2 more days. Yay! Well, 2 to 3 days if you do like the Christmas Eve stuff, but still. Yay! I don't know if I'll be doing any videos for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, but we'll have to see. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, stay compassionate, my friends. Till the next video. Bye!